Hey guys, I just got back from playing tennis. I'm tired right now. I should probably shower before I even do this, but this is the fourth time I'm filming this exact same video. Because the first time, not only was it me being just the absolute train wreck of a YouTuber, it also didn't render properly or something, and I like it's weird. But and the audio was glitched and the video was glitched, so I just kind of threw that out. The other two times just didn't work out at all. And yeah, it's my February break, so I thought, maybe I should do something and not just sit on my ass. I mean, it's been like 3 weeks since I put out the anti-aircraft gun video, right? But that's still a step up over the 5 months before the last one. So yeah, it's an improvement, I guess. Anyway, this video is about the phrase or the concept of controlling the range. You'll see it a lot, especially like even in books, like even in actual books by actual like historians. You'll see the phrase in the context of a certain battleship or a certain warship class with superior range or speed, using that advantage to hold the range between two combatant forces at like a really long range at which they can strike their opponent, but their opponent can't strike back. For example, I think this is in the Google Books thing. It's a book on the Iowa class battleships, and the phrase or the concept is that Iowa would hold the range, like in a hypothetical engagement between the Yamatos and the Iowas. The Iowas would hold the range at 30,000 to 40,000 meters, and like snipe at the Yamato until she couldn't fight very effectively. And I just want to say that whole idea is actually horseshit. And I say that because no one in the history of everything has ever done that. Ever. That made no sense, but I'm going to roll with it because even if the opening range was at 30,000 or 40,000 meters, both sides would basically just close in, like regardless of any kind of range or speed advantage. Like going all the way back to 1905, Tsushima, right? Maximum range of both the Japanese combined fleet and the Russian Baltic fleet was around 16,000 meters. That was the absolute limit of the range, right? The opening range by the Russians, 8,000 meters, was considered to be an extreme range, even though it's only half the maximum range of the guns. And the real range at which like hits started appearing was 6,000 meters. But I mean, yeah, that battle was like 30 odd years before the outbreak of the Second World War, so maybe it's not too relevant in terms of comparing Iowa and Yamato or other World War II era battleships. So, First World War, 1914, Battle of the Falkland Islands, right? The British force significantly outranges and outruns the German cruiser force, but in spite of that, the opening range was 20,000 meters. And the closing range, or the disengagement range, was 10,000 meters. Even though they held a significant gun and speed advantage over the Germans, and they could have, in theory, kept the range at a range at which they could snipe at the Germans and not have them reply back, but they didn't do that because no one does that. All right, 1915, Battle of Dogger Bank. Again, British ships outrun German cruisers. They open fire at 18,000 meters at a range at which the Germans can't fire back because it's too far and the guns don't even reach that fucking far. You know what they do? They don't keep the range at 18,000 meters. They move in because they're not retarded and they know that you aren't going to hit jack shit at the absolute limit of your range. Or even more modern, 1944, Battle of the Surigao Strait. The U.S. battle line crosses the T of the Japanese, what could be generously referred to as a attack force, I guess, right? Like one battleship and a bunch of cruisers and destroyers. Right, they cross their T, they pick up on radar at 40,000 meters, achieve a firing solution at 30,000 meters, but they hold their fire until 23,000 meters, even though they were being supported by a bunch of torpedo boats and the ships were moving at 5 knots. Because they knew, and because they weren't idiots, that they wouldn't hit they would hit jack shit at such a long range. Again, 1944, Battle of Samar. You know, the Japanese Center Force opens fire at 32,000 meters. First hits at 31,000 meters, which, by the way, is the longest range hit in World War II and ever by unguided like projectile weaponry on the open seas. But anyway, they don't hold the range at 30,000 meters, even though they could, in theory, snipe at the Taffy 3. But they didn't. They moved in because they weren't idiots, and they knew that their hit rates at such a long range would be too small. Would be too small to rely on as a real tactic. I mean, yeah, there is one situation in which you would want to open the range up between you and your ship, between you and your enemy, and that's when you're running the fuck away. It's when you're disengaged. That's when you increase the range between between your fleet and the enemy fleet. 1916, Battle of Jutland. British force turns away from the German forces, not because they want to open the range to a range where they can snipe at the Germans and not have them reply back. It's because they wanted to disengage. And yeah, the British admiral did get criticized for that. I think he might have gotten like court-martialed. But he wasn't doing that as a tactic to open to gain a favorable firing range. So yeah, if you ever see someone on like a forums, right, when you're comparing two battleships or two fleets, and you see someone saying that so and so would win because they would dictate the range and just snipe away at the enemy force while the enemy force would be unable to reply back, call them out on their horse shit and just incessantly make fun of them, because that has never happened. That's not happening right now, and it never will, because it's just fucking impractical. The maximum gun ranges are only really relevant in comparing two battleship classes or two fleets, when you're comparing their usefulness as land bombardment units. Because in that case, you can miss a target by like a kilometer and still hit some other poor dumb fuck who's out in the open or in a pillbox. But when you're talking like engagement on the open seas, you really aren't gonna hit a target after what, 24,000 meters, because that was past the Yamato hitting White Plains at 31,000 meters. That was the next longest range hit, I think, by some German pocket battleship against the British aircraft carrier. I think it was the Glorious or the Valiant or something. Some crazy British name. Yeah, you can tell that this wasn't really well planned out, even though I had 3 other times to like figure out what I was gonna say. But either way, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care. I'll see you guys later.